Friends, hello. I am Sophia the Orange, and I am from the Kingdom of Atlantea, and I love to do stuff online. And I'm going to show you some slides. And
Real
I
quick,
also,
wait, real
oh,
quick.
go ahead.
This is being recorded, so I just need to make that announcement every time we start recording. We may share this. We are recording this so that we may share this with those who are unable to attend. By attending this class, you agree to have your likeness and voice recorded.
Super. Thank you, Tina. Super. I do appreciate these recordings a lot because there are a lot of people that can't make it at that exact moment in time. You know, something happens. Life is busy. And I also very much want to go on record saying thank you again to the Kingdom of Kaid and Tina and her staff for creating this opportunity today. You've got all weekend long, 2 classrooms going all day, 6 hours of learning each day. So that's 12 hours of learning times 2, 24 hours of learning in one weekend, strictly focused on the technical sides of making the SCA dream come alive. And I appreciate that so much. Even though we are certainly headed back towards going back to in-person events, there are so many things we've learned in the last year that allow us more. It's never a trade-off. It is always adding to our lives when we can take things and when appropriate, when it works, move it to an online experience. I'm sure a lot of you have already experienced some benefit somewhere of doing something virtually instead of in person. I know in Atlantea, we have this event that's really my favorite event of the year. It's called Unevent, and it's where we have a ton of officer meetings. All the officers have meetings, all the polling orders have meetings, there's meetings to plan other meetings. It's a wonderful day of meetings, and I love it because we get business done. Instead of like, oh, I got to call so-and-so and oh, somebody didn't respond to my email. It's like, let's get everybody in a corner and we'll talk about this thing and we'll make it all happen. And in 5 minutes, you've got a new plan to move ahead. I love that. And yet it is also really hard to get all those people together. And sometimes one poor soul has to drive 8 hours for one meeting. So it doesn't always work one way. It doesn't always work the other, but doing it virtually has made a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And I think that is one great example of shifting something from live to from in person to virtual that produced more benefit than it produced headaches or problems. So that is one case where moving things virtually, I think, is a benefit, and it's enough to keep doing it. So that's one example. And I'm going to show you all sorts of things that you can do and start from the very beginning of like, I want to do blah. And I'm going to show you how to proceed with that dream and take it from dream to reality. Also, in the chat box, I just put a link that is my website, sophia.scottandlara.com. And you're going to find a bajillion things there, including these slides for this event. The slides for this class, and lots of links to all sorts of other things. So please do make use of that website, and please keep in touch. I want to be friends. I'm an extrovert, and life has been hard this last year. So everybody here, if you want to keep in touch, please keep in touch. Just go to the website. You can also Google Sophia the Orange. And remember, I'm not the pretty tall black woman who's part of Orange is the New Black. That's a great TV show, a lot of fun, but she's not me. I'm not her. 2 different Sophias. We both like orange. So here we go with the slides, I think, from, I got to bring up my slides. Sorry, hold on. I got to bring up my slides for online events. So I want to ask real quick, while I'm bringing that up and while I'm messing around with my screen, who else here has an idea of things that they want to do that they haven't done yet? Something that they would like to do online. It's a piece of the SCA dream. They don't know how to do it yet. Does anybody have an idea that maybe we could use as an example or a demonstration as we go through the class today?
I would like to do macro photography, perhaps macro video for some of the finer, smaller crafts that I do in order to teach them.
Wow. Okay, excellent. I don't know the difference between macro and any other kind of photography. Could you give me a little hint about that?
It's a setting some cameras have where you can see close up without, going too close and losing focus. So if you're working with small items, that's
Ooh.
difficult to capture on a webcam, and I'd love to find a workaround for that challenge.
Wow, I can imagine applying that in a lot of places.
That's where digital SLR might come in handy, and some of the stuff that Marguerite was just talking about with connecting a digital SLR to your computer. You might be able to do that. I'm eating lunch, so I'm not going to put my camera back.
So Agnes, are you looking to take a class in how to do that or teach a class in how to do that?
Well, I'd have to figure it out first now, wouldn't I? As far as something that I would like to teach a class in, I have done outside of the SCA, I have done a good deal of digital restoration of historic images. And I've occasionally done that for our local newsletters, as images there. But it is really not recognized at all as an art form within the SCA setting. And I like to regard it as close as you can get to a time machine. If you can really clean up an old manuscript or something like that and bring it, within a reasonable estimate, close to what it looked like when it was new and bright and shiny. It's just like traveling back and seeing it afresh.
That's a great idea.
Buy-in for that as an undertaking.
So I tell you what, let's imagine a virtual event on historic imagery and making more use of it. This is just like a kind of general idea that would fit your concept and maybe bring some people together. So I imagine you might have some classes and you might have some demonstrations and you might have some just meet and greet and get to know each other kind of things. So this is the kind of thing you could absolutely do in an afternoon virtually. So let's use that as our example as we go through the thought process that I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so Agnes, I'm going to talk about this in terms of our imagery improvement event. I just made that up. So of course, it's a working title. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen and go back to the slides, which are my personal chosen method of sharing information. All right, my friends. So can you now see, hopefully we're going to make this a little bigger. Can you now see the big orange fiery slide of welcoming? Okay, thank you, Hagar. Thank you. Awesome. All right, and I think, is that chat box in the way? Here, I'm going to get rid of the chat box. Move our cameras around a little so that they're not getting in the way. There we go. All right, my friends. So who am I and why does that matter? My name is Baroness Sophia the Orange, and in the SCA, in modern life, I'm Laura Coutinho, married to a nice guy named Dean. And you see my website up there and my email. Please keep in touch. And the reason why I've come to this place in my life is that I do a lot of training and teaching, and I have lived a lot of my life online, especially in my day job. So I've got a specific job for the Atlantean University as deputy for online learning. So it's my job to take the lead and make sure that we have ways to continue our teaching and learning on Atlantean University through the online options. And also I work for our Kingdom Web Minister as a deputy for managing virtual courts. I've learned a lot since we started doing them in September. And my good buddy Marguerite, you just heard from, and Ari is a brand new friend that is amazing and brings a lot to the table in terms of graphics, social media, audio, video, all sorts of beautiful things. So there are people out there, and I get to work with them a lot. Also, I love comedy improv, and I do a show once a month called Whose Cause Is It Anyway? To fundraise for causes that we believe in. And I've learned a lot by just doing a lot of live streaming and trying to do performing online. Online theater is weird and new and different, but it works in many ways. It works to reduce the stress and cost of a lot of production things that you experience in the real world. And I can tell you that who's coming? Okay. I can tell you that it's a weird silver lining to COVID that we have learned a lot of. We have learned a lot of things from doing live streaming. Also, in my day job, I work for the military as a contractor. I'm a certified knowledge manager, and I'm an online trainer. So for the past 10 years, I've been training people all over the world that work with the military on how to use these online tools to collaborate. You can imagine that the U.S. military needs to collaborate with everyone around the world. And I work in the unclassified information sharing program. So we're in the business of sharing information with everybody that we can reach in order to make good things happen. So I've been doing this for 10 years. And in the last year, of course, lots of new crazy stuff has been happening. And I try to make use of it and then share it with you guys in the SCA, hoping to keep our SCA hobbies alive and connected. So, I think I skipped a slide. Yes, sorry. This is the one I want, sorry. Recipe. This is where I'm starting. And as you heard, I was talking with Agnes about her idea. The idea is where you need to start with some kind of information or experience or a performance, something that you want to share. So Agnes was talking about sharing her interest in taking images and cleaning them up and doing more with them in the SCA. So you also can teach classes, take classes, or just invite other people to share their genius and invite them to come and teach classes. Performances also happen a lot. I'm sure you've heard of a Bardic Circle happening somewhere near you. And when I say near you, I don't mean geographically. I mean in your view screen of SCA Life Online. I'm sure you've seen a Bardic Circle happen by now. Workshops, meetings. Meetings are great. You can easily just log into a thing, talk, get your business done and leave. So all these pieces of content come together to make an experience that you can have virtually. You also have to have people to provide that content. So when Kaid put out the word that this virtual symposium was something they wanted to have, I saw that they had a short list of classes that was like pretty cool. And I said, I want to do that. And I know there's some other people in Atlantean that would like to join in the fun. So we spread the word to find those content providers. You also got to have an audience, people who need to listen and hear what you have to say. That's the other side of the equation. Now, when doing an online event, you also have to have online conferencing software, which we haven't had to think about before. And you also need processes for taking all those people you've got on your staff and meshing them with the software and making something virtual happen. And do not forget the basics. You also need to have internet access, electricity, tables and chairs and air conditioning or heat and all those other things that actually go into making an event happen. Oh, keep doing past. Now let's talk about unofficial versus official. We have seen a lot of both happen. Unofficial is brilliant and beautiful, and I hope a lot of people will continue to make use of the idea that you don't need an official blessing by an SCA group to do anything online. You can do it yourself, and there's plenty that you can do marketing to Scadians. It does not have to be official. There are times when unofficial is just fine. And there are times when you're going to want to get official blessing from an SCA group, work directly with the SCA group at whatever level you need, and be in sync with them. So officially, means that you are officially sponsored by an SCA group. It could be your canton or shire little group, or your barony, or the kingdom. It could be your kingdom's university. There could be any number of groups, as long as it is an official SCA group, and that'll mean that they will have a seneschal. There are other requirements, but there will at least be one person who is a seneschal and the legal representative of that group, and that's the first person you need to talk to. Every group has different requirements. Every kingdom has by now set up different requirements that they need for an event to go online that is sponsored by that kingdom. And I encourage you to talk to the Kingdom Seneschal and look at their web pages, because a lot of that is published by now. Not 100%. There will be some pieces missing, and sometimes you just need to contact the Seneschal, ask them what they need. Sda Insurance is interesting because it is something that applies to an official event, but you don't have a location where you need to get that piece of paper from Milpitas anymore. Just be aware that it is part of the package when you say that you have an official event. The Sda Insurance is there, but so far, I have not yet in the last year seen it applied to a virtual event. So I want you to just be aware of it, even though it doesn't actually become something you need to work with in a virtual event. One of these days, I'm actually going to start talking to the SCA Inc. people and say what in theory would be something that would apply there. I don't know yet. Also, a big thing that is a big deal is copyright to those graphics we are so accustomed to using and seeing of heraldry and names of SCA groups. So if I say that this fun event that Agnes has in mind for imagery and improving it for SCA uses, I could say, hey, Agnes, let's you and me put this on, and we can do it ourselves, and we can say, Sophie and Agnes put on this cool event. But we cannot say that the barony of blah blah puts on this event. We cannot say, here's a set of classes for the SCA. We can't use those terms. You got to be careful about how you phrase your titles and your advertisements. And also, if you are going to ask a baronage or a royalty to give out awards or have the opportunity to, or if they approach you and say, we would like to have a little court at your event, it has to be official. Unofficial events do not fit requirements for having a court. And there is a big line in the sand there. Now, unofficial events can be just as wonderful. It just means that it's different. You can't have courts, you can't use SCA heraldry, and you can't say that the SCA is holding this event or sponsoring this event. And there's also, nobody else to tell you how to do it or deadlines of any kind. So you're all on your own, but sometimes it can be absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to show you some great examples of unofficial events that have been great in the last year. This is a little bit more on that. Examples of official events include all those universities you've been seeing. This very event we're in right now, the Technical Symposium for Technological Geniuses. I'm sure I'm getting that name wrong, but Technical Symposium is a key phrase that will let you know this has been approved by the kingdom. If it's unofficial, you can still do many, many of the same things. One of my best examples of the unofficial event is the Known World Courtesans Collegium that happened last year in August, right at the same time that the second week of Penzig would have been. They did all the most amazing things for a week, crammed full that week of all sorts of classes and performances and meet and greet sessions all around their community of courtesans that was international, and yet it was not official. They were very clear about not being official. Now, what they did do is they talked to and coordinated with SCA Inc., and SCA Inc. asked them to please make sure that they were opening it up to the public. Anybody that was 18 or older could attend, and also they asked unofficially, and it was agreed to use that bully policy as a as a warning. So put that up on everything, that the bully policy set some expectations. But it was unofficial. And so all of that was just sort of a agreed upon good best practices. So let's dive into some examples of what these requirements could be. I'm using Atlantea as an example because that's where I live, and that's where I have learned most of my stuff. But I'm going to tell you that your mileage will vary. Each kingdom, each group, each everything is very different. And a lot of these things are going to be good places for you to start asking those questions. So if you wanted to go to the Kingdom of Meridies and say, I have something that is just perfect for you guys, I would like to do an event for the Kingdom of Meridies. Are your requirements different from Atlantea in these ways? You can start the conversation that way. So let's see. Up at the top, official event requirements. SCA group sponsoring the Seneschal must approve the event. Spike here in quotes, that is our unofficial, cute, affectionate name for our website that holds event flyers online. It is connected directly to the calendar, and the content in it is published in the Acorn, which is our newsletter. It's the only non-C thing that's named after something that doesn't have to do with the C in Atlantea, and I'm sure older people than I will be able to answer why. But these are requirements that need to be hoops to jump through when you're doing an event. The last one is important. The chronicler has a deadline of the first of the month prior to the publication of the Kingdom newsletter. So everything for an event needs to be put in and submitted and approved by that deadline of the first of the month prior. So let's say we wanted to have our event on June 12th. By May 1st, which was yesterday, I should have had all of my stuff, all of my proposals reviewed by the Seneschal I'm working with and into the Atlantea calendar, and an event flyer loaded up onto the Spike website. So unofficial stuff I went through. Best practices. This is not a requirement, but it's really a best practice. We have on Atlantea a separate website called Virtual Atlantea that takes all of the virtual activities that are happening and focuses them into a calendar and some additional spaces for sharing videos and files. Also, the SCA bully policy, that may be a requirement, it may not, depending on your kingdom's requirements. And we also have a really great Kingdom web minister named Melchior, and he has a little Google Doc down there that he put together last year that shows you kind of the basics of where he thinks some of these things to go. So that's a lot of what I'm talking about in this class, but it also gives you another perspective from somebody in the business. There we go. Caveats, internet safety. Internet safety is all about passwords and where the links are that apply to those passwords. And there's a few easy things you can do to minimize the risk that a bad apple will come in and wreak havoc. Now, keep in mind, the risks we're in are limited because the SCA hobby stuff is not full of, the kinds of things people would look for when they're trolls and hackers on the internet. So you're just looking to minimize the risk. However, my greatest advice is keep it hobby level. I would not recommend sharing information like your private information, like your address or your phone numbers. Keep things shared that are easy to share in the public. I would not share anything private in terms of when you are posting information about your event. So when you publish your link for the event, you can use passwords. Zoom has an option to either make your link publicly accessible, so anybody hitting that link will go straight into the Zoom room, or you can use a password. If you keep that password in a completely separate page, a separate place from the URL links, that is a low-tech way of managing your security. Also, you can do what the Technical Symposium did here, and they published the links on the day of the event. They said, come here on the day of the event to find your links. And we found them on the Facebook event, and that was easy enough to get to the right place at the right time. Another way I've seen it done is pick a single password that means something in SCA jargon. Like I just used the word spike for the Atlantean event calendar that all the folks in Atlantean are familiar with. I could put on my webpage the word that we're using for all the passwords is spike. When it comes time to open up your rooms, go to the links that are on this other page and use the word spike for your password. That has been done, and it's also a low-tech way of minimizing risk. Another thing that you can do is really one of the cleanest ways to do it is to use a waiting room. Now, a waiting room does rely on the fact that the people typing in their names are going to type in something that will alert you to the fact that it's actually Dr. Evil entering your room and not mild-mannered Scadian. So watch out for that. But if you have a waiting room, you can also move somebody from the main meeting in Zoom into that waiting room again, and they have to cool their heels. That's pretty easy to do. As a host, you just hover your cursor over the person's name and you get a menu up, and move to waiting room is one of those options. And a hack to do the same thing is a separate breakout room. So right now we're in a breakout room from the main room Kaid has set up for us. So they have one main Zoom with 2 breakout rooms. Those are the 2 classrooms. And then if they needed to, they could add a third one that's like the penalty box. If there were people that were causing trouble, move somebody into a separate breakout room as a penalty box. You can also remove them, just kick them out. Remove is an easy button. And also you can choose to not grant microphone and camera use to everyone as a setting. You can allow them to have them individually, and then the host can choose to turn them off individually as well. So these are just caveats for keeping your password safe and keeping your links in a low risk practice. Accessibility is an issue. We have found, especially in this last year, that there are some people that do not have enough internet access that's reliable and with enough bandwidth that they can reliably participate in Zoom calls and other things that require a lot of bandwidth. So you're going to just need to be aware of that. There's always going to be somebody that has some sort of inhibition that does not allow them the same kind of accessibility that everybody else does. So your job as an event coordinator is to be mindful of that as best you can and try to offer options for those folks. One of the options that's really easy is to, like in a class like this, invite somebody to participate with just calling in on the phone and listening. And then I can email them the slides, and they can follow along on the slides on their own. So that requires no internet, or if poor internet doesn't allow them to use Zoom, it's another option. So considering those options for accessibility is your job as the event coordinator. Now, the balance between safety and convenience is always a thing. If you have the link and a password right next to it, that is super convenient. Everybody is going to be able to say, oh, great, I've got the link and I know exactly where it is and I got the password to get in. But that means, everybody, including the bad apples, have that. So I'm going to tell you one way we manage this risk in University of Atlantean is we use our whole web system is a little complex compared to your straight up Google Sheets. The way we manage it is we have classes as a line item in a database, and the teachers will submit a class to create that item. Then the students will register for those classes, and then the teacher will email the students from this system. There's a button for the teachers to email students. So the teachers will email the students the link to the class and any passwords they choose to use, but that is private communication. It's not public. What's public is the advertisement of what all the classes are, when they are happening, who's teaching them, descriptions and stuff like that, but not the link to the class. So in Atlantean University, we're really lucky because we've had this system for a long, long time, and it just became really a good method to manage a large amount of classes for an event that's all virtual, which happened a lot last year. So there's this balance where we have a lot of safety and control with University of Atlantean, where we have also provided convenience, but you may not have that. If you don't have a big old system that already provides that, you might have to make some compromises on one way or the other, either safety or convenience. Now, this is a universal challenge. Everybody deals with this. So you need to find your balance that works for you and your audience. Now then, we are going to move on to a demo. Then I'm going to show you how some of these things fit in. So this is like the next step beyond Agnes's great idea of an imagery improvement event. This is my good buddy Marvin Sofievich, who really likes puppets because he is a puppet. And so we're going to see what he has in mind for an online event. Marvin's event plan, he says, well, I know that puppetry is awesome. And so puppetry enthusiasts from all around the world would like to provide some content. What does that look like? Well, it's performances and classes and panel discussions, people meeting each other and networking online. And then there's the audience, people who would like to just watch some puppet shows. So what does Marvin do? He gets together some friends. This happens in the SCA a lot. So here's Marvin. He's up at the top. He's a wide-eyed, very idealistic young guy. And he's got his friend Coco the Wonder Dragon, who's going to be the communications director, because communications really is a lot of what you need to make an event happen. Archimedes is going to be the technical director, and he's going to manage building the Zoom rooms and ensuring that the passwords are set however they need to be. And then Lucia here, this is my sister. I'm always volunteering her for stuff. And so she's going to be the graphics designer and make sure we have visuals that will allow people to understand they're in the right place at the right time when it comes to experience one of the activities in the event. Now, there's, of course, going to be additional staff for you guys in the events that you create, and they do not have to be tech savvy. You need to, just like any event, ask people to come and join you if they care about the topic and if they have a particular kind of skill that they can offer and bring to the table. Software and processes. So for Archimedes is going to think about these things and bring them to the team and ask what they think. So online conferencing software can be anything. Zoom is the #1 most popular thing that we've all been talking about for the last year, but there are other options. Google Meet is another, I would call it, kind of the second most popular one. And then there's lots of them. Marguerite mentioned Twitch. I have a Twitch account, but I haven't really figured it out yet. There's another one, Discord. And again, I've been on it. I've played with it some. I've done some projects on it, and it does do some very good things. I think Discord has some limits, like 25 people per class, per like online session, something like that. I have not figured them out yet, but there are lots of those things out there, and I encourage you to look for them. Just know right now that Zoom and Meet are very popular, and people tend to gravitate to them because they're popular and easy. And there's lots of how-to videos on YouTube for them. So keep in mind, you can choose to either have your event provide the online venue or not. Here in Kaid, you guys have provided the online venue for us teachers. We just showed up. But Atlantean University does not. We ask all the teachers to bring their own online venue, and that has worked out really well. We do have an option for Atlantea assisted rooms. And so we have a small section where we have 2 of the staff have just volunteered their Zoom accounts. And actually, recently we bought one. Recently, the Atlantean University actually bought their own Zoom account. And we also have somebody donating theirs, and I think there might be 2 or 3 of them. So let's say there's probably 3 Zoom accounts available for university assisted, where we will provide the online venues. So what Marvin has done here is he's decided to do it that way with the way Atlanta University does it, to let people use anything they want to use. Bring their own online venue, bring your own classroom. Software and processes for internal coordination is different. That's like when people put together a Facebook group and they say, everybody come to Facebook group and we'll talk about it. Unfortunately, not everybody is on Facebook, and that's okay. It's a perfectly valid lifestyle choice to not be on Facebook. I support that if you choose that for yourself. So I recommend using email, because in my many, many years of online work, I have found that email is the only universal standard that you can genuinely expect everybody to have one. And it's easy to get a free one if people want to take that extra step if they haven't gotten an email address yet. So I recommend email instead of something like Facebook or Discord that not everybody's on. Even though Facebook can make much progress down that road, it doesn't reach everybody. Google Groups is something not a lot of people have used, but I think it's the best in terms of setting up an email list where you can send one email to like Marvin's event group at googlegroups.com to create a quick, easy, free email listserv. A lot of people in the SCA made great use of Yahoo groups. And I was actually part of the SCA when it used to be called e-groups back in the 90s. So any kind of email software you want to use, go ahead and use it, but choose in your group what your internal coordination software is going to be. Some other people have enjoyed using WhatsApp, Slack. You've also got MS Teams. There's a lot of apps out there that you can use just on the phone. As long as your particular group all agrees what their internal coordination software is going to be, that's fine. Pick one and run with it. Let's see. Next one, promoting the event. It is wonderful to have lots of social media out there, but there's no better way to use social media than to spread the word through social media that points back to a static event site. Now you can do what Kaye did here and make your Facebook event public and make that your event site. That's okay too. You can do that as long as you have one place that's the gold standard for where the information about your event is going to be. As it changes over time, this is the one place that's updated, and it will take precedence over anything else out there that says, I think this class is at this time, or this person's doing that thing. You got to have one gold standard. It is your information keystone. And a static website is usually great for that. You can also make a place on Facebook or somewhere else as long as it is static and the URL does not change. Some other places that people have gone for that are like WordPress.com, easy way to set up beautiful websites. It is not very hard. It does take a little bit of learning. And similarly with Google Sites, another quick, easy, free way to set up websites. And they can, it takes a little bit of learning. Now, another hack that I can recommend that I have used that I like a lot is you create a simple Google Doc. And so this means you're using a Google account, which will usually mean your Gmail account. Open up Google Drive, create a Google Doc, and add your text, pictures, and links onto this one page. That will have a URL that does not change. And then you can spread that around your social media. Now, this is a hack. It's not super professional looking, but it is super quick and easy. So if you wanted to have like an instant in 48 hours, we're going to produce this event on how to improve your images online because Agnes is motivated and she's got time on Thursday and that's it. You could do that really quickly. And it would be a simple, easy way to produce the text and information and links about what you want to do online and put it out there in a public way that people can see. Also, Google does great things. I think there's a class in this symposium somewhere on Google resources. And I teach a class on Google resources. There's so much that you can do there. Google Forms is a great way to allow people to sign up for things. You can also add to a Google form an upload link that will allow them to upload things to your event site. We did this for the Kingdom of Atlantean Kingdom Arts and Sciences event. We had a bajillion contests. Actually, it was about a dozen. Okay, a dozen contests for doing cool artsy things, and people needed to upload their pictures and their documentation. So we set up Google Forms for that. And then all of the staff was assigned permission to each of the folders that were fed by those forms. So all of the staff people that were coordinating each contest, they could be assigned to their little folder and have all the information that they needed for each contest. Similarly, any of the instructions that you want to give people about how to use those forms, how to use the resources you're producing, you put that in your gold standard site. Okay, I've got just a few more slides for you, and then I'm going to open it up to questions. So please start thinking now about what kind of questions you have about how we might bring to life your event, because I want you to be able to leave here with some next steps in mind. Communication is the hardest thing. You might think that technology and learning these new things is hard. It's not super hard, and there's a lot of YouTube videos out there and a lot of friends out there that have used these things that can help you get over that relatively small hump of just learning a new little piece of technology to get you where you want to go. The hardest part is communicating amongst people, your staff, and making sure they're all on the same page, and how their SCA lives that used to be in person can translate into something virtual that can then be shared with the whole world and be, different. So I recommend regular meetings. If you get a weekly meeting together and people know at Monday at 8 o'clock, we are going to talk for a little while about this event, that will keep people motivated and thinking and pushing further ahead. Freeconferencecall.com is still in business. You do not have to have a Zoom. You can have a free conference call where you just get on the phone and you say, what are you doing this week? And that keeps people still working together on making things happen. Also, be sure to have a set of expectations for promotion on social media or wherever you're putting it. Once you've gotten your website, that's your gold standard, set up a plan. If you're going to have weekly or every other day announcements on which platforms, whether it's going to be Facebook, email, Discord, Twitch, CNN, wherever you want to, wherever you're going to make your announcements happen, plan it first, then execute it. Because actually, if you do it kind of randomly, people can tell that it's random instead of planned. What to post, that's up to you, but I'm mentioning here canva.com later on today at 6 o'clock Eastern time, 3 o'clock Pacific time. You're going to have a great class by my friend Auri, who just joined our virtual courts team in Atlantean. She's a genius on many aspects. Canva.com is a class she's teaching tonight. I highly recommend going to canva.com for your graphics needs because they already have set up templates for every kind of social media. They've got easy graphics. Most of them are free. There's, of course, a level you can pay for that's leveling up. Also, if you give your audience a job to do, like come with an idea for the image you want to use to improve it for the conference we're just talking about getting going, then bring one that gives a person a little bit of a task to do that gets them invested in the event. Now, I have very little time left. I think I have 5 minutes. So I want to show you examples. I've been in this since the beginning and before that on virtual events. And so I want to show you some of the special events I've seen over the last year throughout the SCA that have been amazing and inspiring. Marvin is a cute little guy, but these guys have done great stuff. So Glenn Aubin did some great things around Christmas. The On-Tier 12th night was a great time. I participated in that one. Windmasters Hill Family Reunion is one I made myself that's kind of small. Atlantean Kingdom Arts and Sciences Festival I just told you about. Drachenwald University was my first time on Discord. It was very cool. And then Avocal and North Shield also did a 12th night. I saw a real push around 12th night for groups that wanted to do something. They saw things happening throughout 2020 and they said, I want to try something in the SCA. And they put together events for 12th night, and then it just exploded and blossomed and grew from there. It was really cool. So Glenaban 12 Days of Cooking was an early first step that they took, where they just had a whole bunch of cooks that loved doing what they were doing. They were in the midst of Christmas cooking season. They did a little video. Each one of them did a little video, and they posted it over 12 days on their Facebook group, and they called it the 12 Days of Cooking. It was an easy, quick and easy way for them to get started doing online events, and they just had a little Facebook event where people updated these videos once a day over 12 days. It was a real quick and easy first step into this. Then they got really excited and motivated around Candlemas later on. That was February. And they set up a Google site, free and easy. They posted the links to their Zoom events on the Friday afternoon before the event. They had a welcome point for bringing people into one Zoom room and showing people all of the contacts that they needed, that included the SCA Code of Conduct, the bully policy, asking people to go ahead and wear garb. And they also had a Zoom usher that would usher them into the right places. They had 5 tracks of classes running all day on Saturday. They included some social hours, show and tell, and they had people sign up for their show and tell slots. Of course, a Bardic Circle, because that's easy to translate into a Zoom. And the thing I loved the most is they had this puzzle. I just loved this. They had pictures of their baronage and royalty made into these online puzzles, and it was just this cute little widget that somebody found and put on the website. And I was engaged for a solid 20 minutes putting together this puzzle. And I was like, they just got 20 minutes of my attention by putting this puzzle in front of me, and I was engaged in their website. That is genius. They also had a good kids corner, and I loved that. On to your 12th night, what they added that I thought was genius is this map. They made a visual representation of a castle that represented where their Zoom rooms were. Now, this is not built anywhere. This is a graphic, but it shows you, look, we got a Bardic room over here, 3 show and tell rooms, 3 salons, welcomes point, a herald's room, and a place to go look at merchants. Those are all Zooms. And I mean, seeing that visual with the little schedule down underneath it was a beautiful way of portraying what somebody could expect coming to this event online. This is a little one that I did. This is the Windmaster's Hill. Barony of Windmaster's Hill is my home here in North Carolina. And we had a New Year's reunion. And I just said, everybody come and do a Zoom. We'll be here for 2 or 3 hours. And we invited all of the baronage, going back in time as far as we could get. Everybody come here. And we invited the current baronage to introduce the one before them. Then they introduced the one before them. They introduced the one before them. And we had so much great storytelling. It was beautiful fun. So it was mostly like around that, but then also these little groups that like popped up out of nowhere. There's one called the Buxton Brats. That was all people that found the SCA in college and grew up and had families. It was just adorable. And then we kind of split up into little groups and took screenshots as family portraits. It was a lot of fun. So it was, again, a small thing, but a great way to keep people connected while they're, quarantined at home. Kingdom Arts and Sciences, I told you the real key bit to that was the contests that had Google Forms where people could upload their stuff. Also, I have to mention there was a virtual ball that was amazing. Our Atlantean Dance Guild lead is Lady Nicolessa, and she's a genius, both in making beautiful dance happen, researching it, and bringing it to people online. She picked out recorded music. They did training videos ahead of time, and then she brought people together in a Zoom where people were dancing by themselves or with one other person in their family, and they were actually reliving that enjoyment of having people dance to the same tune at the same time. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I know you might think virtual dancing would be weird, but it worked. It was great. The next one is Drachenwald. They had a university where they used Discord. It was my first time getting in there, and it was awesome. They were able to do all those things we've been talking about, in one space that was very well organized. I could tell that whoever had organized it was great with Discord, because I entered as a newbie, not really knowing where I was or what I was doing. And there were places to ask questions and people were answering them. And they said, here, go here for your class. Come over here for a separate chit chat after your class. And then the evening ball was just like I just described with Nicolessa, all sorts of beautiful content. Now, Avocal Virtual North Shield, really, really great. The thing I want to point out that they did that was super fun is they had a Baron's Wager. 2 baronies came together to put together this event. One is in the kingdom of Avocal, one is in the kingdom of North Shield, and they're neighbors, and clearly they play a lot together. So they had a wager to see who could generate the most activity, attendance at the event. They had a Google form where people would just sign up and say, I'm on the Avocal side, I'm on the North Shield side. And whoever won this contest by the end of the day, that Baron had to refer to their barony as Avocal East or North Shield West for the remainder of the event. That doesn't cost anybody anything. And it is hilarious fun, and it is all generating activity for people to be engaged with what you're doing online. Now, these are the common themes I'm going to show you about, and then we're going to wrap up. The common themes for building an event online is you need to have something you want to talk about, like Agnes's idea of images and how to improve them for SCA life. You can also make that a really broad idea, like let's just teach classes. You know, whatever you know, share what you know, bring it together. Or somewhere in the middle, like Kaid has done today, this weekend, with a topic, technical stuff, and we're going to focus it, but have lots of classes all day. You've also got everything that we've done in the SCA, baronial courts, show and tell of our arts that we do, competitions, music, meetings, feasts, pre-recorded messages from our leaders, all sorts of things that you can put on there. Everything can be done. I want to say that there is very little that we cannot do online. There are some things, of course. Of course, fighting a tournament is very difficult to do online. You can't really hit your buddy with a stick online. Okay, there are some ways now to do that in little tiny ways. You can always do it, unofficially and privately in your backyard. There are ways that we are getting to doing those things that need to be in person. We're adding those back into the mix, and keep in mind there's so much you can do online that I hope we continue to do lots and lots online, because no longer is the 8-hour drive gonna keep me from seeing somebody and working with somebody that shares my common interests. So no more driving, man. I'm not driving more than 15 minutes away from my house ever again. Okay, well, that's an exaggeration. But I leave you with that thought, and I'd like to see if we have any questions. I'm 4 minutes over, and I would love to see if you have questions, and if Agnes is maybe inspired to actually run a little event on imagery improvement for SCA use. And then if you guys have any other ideas for things that you can take what we've shared today and move forward and do something online to share your genius with the world, let me know.
Well, thank you. Since you asked specifically by name, I think that unless I did it on a very small micro level, like individual class level, I would need to ask the good people at my barony who are coordinating today's event and say, when and if you are recuperated enough to go for it again. If you want to do it on a larger scale like this, I would love to. I also want to be respectful of your time and your energies. But yeah, it certainly gives a few good ideas to go from.
Awesome. I'm so glad, Agnes. I hope to hear about your virtual event about images someday in the future. All right. Anybody else got questions? Otherwise, we should wrap up and go to lunch.
All right. I think this is great class. Oh, sorry. Go, cousin.
I was just going to insert an idea here when you were talking about the tournaments. One of the ways that we have actually covered that in Kaid is to play a card game. And basically we have like a little template that has a circle and it's divided into 4 sections. You have A, B, C, D, and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other. And they're hitting, and you have someone who's the official that calls it. 2 people that are competing, they 1, 2, 3 go and put their cards up, and then we can tell who hit what where. And so if you want to contact me after, or if you want to hang around after, I can give you some information about that.
I definitely want to hear about this.
The world, because we've made use of that, and it's been very fun.
That's adorable. I love that.
We also roll dice as well.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Like, do you have dice? Yes, we all have dice. Well, not everybody. Most people do. But if you don't, then somebody can roll for you, and they have a camera on that so that they can see that they're not lying about what they rolled. So,
I love that. See, great ideas. Innovation happens. I love it. Oh, you guys are great. Awesome. All right, well, I tell you what, let's end the recording and say thank you to everybody so much for your time. Thanks a million. Come back.